Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the rundown. We skipped the rundown yesterday. I had some life errands to run. Somehow I managed to screw up my YouTube algorithm because apparently if you stream and you don't have a lot of views, that kills your YouTube algorithm. So I got murdered on YouTube. But all is good. All is good. We figured out a way. A rundown of today. We had R7 versus Gigabyte Marines. They're not called Gigabyte Marines, but Gigabyte Marines is a very cool name. And then DFM versus BDS. And then we're going to talk about the upcoming matchups because I think they are going to be far more interesting than what we, of course, experienced today. I think today was probably the most deflating day in terms of energy and what we saw. I think that we also saw the lowest level of gameplay that we saw all planes long. R7 vs Gigabyte Marines, the first game. We have Rel first pick, traded for Xayah Rakan. Xayah is something that has dominated the planes. We're currently at a 9-4 scoreline for Xayah. Xayah is doing really well in planes. I think this is a champion that requires a lot more finesse to punish. I think we will see like some strong Aphelios players, strong Kaden players, strong Ashe players really put things into gear against Xayah. I still think Ezreal is a fine answer to Xayah too, but I think that considering the mid meta and jungle meta, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of Caitlyn's coming into the Swiss stages, because all in all, the Caitlyn requires so much finesse to play, because if you make one mistake, you're kind of out of the picture. So Xayah Rakan is a very solid rotation. That's what I said, Yusuf. Jarvan gets locked in. I don't think Jarvan is particularly great into Xayah Rakan and also Revere Flex, but it is what it is. That's perfectly fine. I think R7 as a team probably were better off picking K'Sante as early as possible for Bong because it's his best champion. Jarvan Kaiser gets locked in, K'Sante on 3. So here's something that Dom mentioned on the cast, which would have been a brilliant idea. It's like here they picked Wukong on 4, which I think is a very solid pick into Jarvan. I think like Wukong into Jarvan is very solid. Jarvan is stronger early, but then Wukong scales well, and Jarvan can't really fight against Wukong, has too many dashes, the W and so forth. And then Elise and Viban were also decent bans because to remove the AD junglers that Levi likes to play. I think Wukong is a solid pick here. Enemy goes Gwen into K'Sante and then Sylas blind. With Nico, Ahri, Akali out and Orianna out, they went for Sylas blind. I think Sylas is very weak against Wukong and K'Sante and Xayah. I think Sylas is not a strong pick here. Only Rakan ult is the only one that you can play with, and that's it. And you're also blinding it, but this is where comfort kicks in, right? Because a lot of the standard mid laners that people would blind are already out of the picture. And then Syndra gets picked on 5. Here, Dom mentioned, imagine they went K'Sante mid into Sylas, monster matchup for K'Sante, and they counted Gwen. It would have been checkmate on the spot, right? Imagine they just pick Cannon here on 5 as an example. I think that Gigabyte Marines GAM would have been completely GG. We continue to the game. There was a cheeky level 1 plan. They got some Wukong value, burnt his flash, made him skill W, fucks up his clear speed a little bit, let's fast forward to it. I think the most disappointing thing about this game is that I don't think it mostly came down to teams' inability to extend their leads, and I think they put themselves in positions where they actually, screwed themselves over, like they actually made plays that put them behind rather than good macro and good gameplay actually putting you ahead. In this particular game, there was a 2-0 start on mid, and Gigabyte Marines showcased that they're very inaccurate in the early game. Let's just go back and show the sequence. Started off with Kati with his Syndra E, really a flop here. Your defensive capability is of course your E, and here like the E didn't do anything. It was a double flash onto Kati, and then Levi tries to extend. Keep in mind Levi doesn't have his flash from before, and he W to catch up, and he dies here too. And this all of a sudden, this very weak Sylas pick in this spot all of a sudden has gotten through his point of weakness. But then there was a point in the game where everything just kind of collapses. It's like R7 had a fantastic start. They lose the Drake, no problem. Xayah Rakan managed to get a 2v2 kill. But then there was this moment in time where Sylas just dies in the most dry way possible. He is here on the mid wave. We just kind of go into the frame, and then Kati just straight up gets solo killed like this in the most dry way possible. Not sure what he was thinking here. I have no explanation for this. And then it extends. We have a Wukong killing the Gwen on top as well. And then the extension as well. This kind of just collapsed the game in a way. Wukong was accelerated to the point in time where he gets Divine Sunderer. We fast forward. This as well as a sequence. Xayah taking full turret on bot. And then probably the nail in the coffin. R7 just overextending in their decisions. Going so deep when it's not necessary. It's like Xayah's just farming bot, hitting bot. If we look at the whole sequence, right? It's like Xayah's hitting bot tower for free. Already the play into topside was very bad. They tried to dive and pressure K'Sante. And then of course Syndra was TPing to defend, was super good. And then they try to leverage the pressure into mid, and they feel the need to pressure something because Xayah is hitting bot tower for free. So they are outnumbering 5-4 on the top side of the map, but you need to think about champion strength too, right? It's like a Divine Thunder, a Wukong with ult and W, very tough to dive. You know, the OD is really extending this, and then the flash finally lands, Jarvan dies, and Xayah is still accomplishing what she's accomplishing. K'Sante finds the TP on the back line, he ults, could have ulted maybe earlier here on Leon's to get him in, you know. And then pretty much we have an ace going on. Q3 lands and the extension here from Levi and Pallet. They go all the way and the game is pretty much done and dusted. Done and dusted. We look at game 2. Game 2, R7 vs Gam. We have Rakan first pick. This was a switch up. They just continue with the same line of logic. Xayah and Rel. And then Kai'Sa gets picked and then they prioritize Lee Sin over the Jarvan this time and Syndra gets locked in. Not sure why they didn't go for the K'Sante, especially after how the last game played. It's like the answer of Gwen into K'Sante was pretty weak. K'Sante looked solid, and you deny the enemy player his best champion. Bong's best champions by far, K'Sante. They go Syndra on 3, and then they ban Nico, LeBlanc, and Ahri gets picked. They blind pick Jaxi on 4. K'Sante gets picked into it. Still, Bong is very happy in this situation, and he's going to play it. I think an idea here for R7, what they really wanted to do is that they wanted to actually flex the Lee Sin. It's not something that I mentioned, but if we go on deep low and we pull up the track diff and we look for Bong's account, it'd be nice if the page worked. All right. Doesn't work. All right. R7 Bong Korean account. So here. Can't find it. You need to click Worlds Invades Korea. Where is it? This one. Alright, I didn't see it. And let's search for Bong. I think their idea here was that I guess we can't open his obi.gg, but I guess we have his name here. There we go. Look at the amount of Lee Sin games homie played. I think that was their idea, that they are looking for like some kind of Lee Sin spot. They were looking for some Lee Sin spot for top. I think that's what they wanted to do. I think that picking K'Sante could have been interesting for R7, but I repeat, you know, K'Sante flex here would have been monstrous here for Gigabyte Marines if they sent K'Sante mid. You know, this is one of those moments. Dom pointed out, and I fully agree. Yeah, Jax blind, so they don't want to play Lee Sin into Jax, so they just go K'Sante and Ahri, and then Vi gets picked on 5. Well, we jump to the game. Not much to say about draft. I think after Kati's Syndra performance, I thought maybe R7 has some moments here because they collapsed on Syndra well in one of the fights there in the game, but let's take a look at the game. There was a moment in top where there was an outplay. I don't know why. It's like he had everything lined up. It's like Odi, he overstayed on bot to set up a gank, so he's 6 very late. Syndra has a base advantage on mid, Ahri is late, they have tempo on mid, Rift Herald is for free. But this is a showcase of a very strong Rift Herald opportunity that gets completely thrown away because they focus on the skill here. Kiaya just used E in the bush so he doesn't have E on cooldown. He walks on the wave. And they decide to set up this gank rather than punching the Herald. Kiaya had full control over top, they had full control over mid. And they could have just secured Herald here for free, 300 gold. Instead they create volatility when not necessary. Bong gets away, they want to vial the Kesante. And now I have the R flash onto Levi. Well played here by Odi and Bong, but if we just look at the fine details for those who want to learn how to set up a Herald. First and foremost, Kati's base timer is basing on the 720 wave, which lines up his wave perfectly to the wave that is going to be active for Herald, right? That's one. Vi has full cleared and focused on the fact that she wants to hit level 6. If we look at Lee Sin's decision here as an example, he right now has his Gromp, Wolves and Red spawning. If he cleared the Gromp and Wolves and he was right now on the position of the Red spawning, because he's investing a lot of time here, he would actually be 6 on the correct moment. But this is a perfectly fine play to look for if you know that your mid condition and top condition is not going to be good enough for Herald. Because maybe the idea for Odi here is that, oh, we're going to stack a wave on bot. If we pressure bot, we get the first base. Kaiser Rakan has prio. Zaya will have to base flat, and then maybe Lee Sin goes into top side, goes Gromp Wolves, and then into bot side. It would have been good, but as an extension, you know, if we think about Herald in isolation, here Vi gets 6 first, she's clearing her campies, Syndra gets the base first, Ahri stays longer. Keep in mind Ahri didn't base yet, so it means that Ahri tempo is worse, Syndra has first base. Now Syndra is on the wave that Herald spawns on. Imagine right now, Vi just leashes the Herald right now on spawn. They know they have mid advantage, they have Zaya and mid hovering, and all is good, you know, all is good. Instead they look for this top lane. This game fell flat on his head the moment that R7 decided to dive bot. I think the play is coming up just now. Let's see when it happens. And then once again I repeat, it's like these games, they kind of happened in a way, I don't know where Leons is going, like he just keeps going like Pepsi Man. The way these games kind of played out was like crucial mistake from R7, overextending their play and then putting themselves in a very, very bad situation. Pallet here latches on to Rakan. Rakan has no spells. Odi tries to do some ninjutsu Kaisen moves, but it just wasn't enough. And then they just continue the chase, and all of a sudden, you know, this game is just way too bad. There was some fights here where the roster of Arsene was way too uncoordinated, so they just gave Jax way too much value. I think it was this fight that we can highlight as the last goodbye to R7. It's just that if you're playing the champions with the Divine Sunderers, you're very happy to create scatter situations. They fight here on one front. Zaya does die. She had no flash, no ult from this previous chase on bottom. And we continue. Alright. You can see the Jax, Divine Sunderer value completely popping off. And that's it. Goodbye R7. DFM, R7. Worst regions at this World Championship this time around. Thank God we don't need to see a best of 5 between them, but you know, must be rough to travel to a World Championship and just lose 4 games in a row. Alright. DFM was a BDS, it was just the Adam show. Something to highlight, right? We should make this a little bit more BDS focused. I think the Braum pick here is very bad. I don't like it at all. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think that the enemy team is showing anything that makes Braum strong. So I don't like the Braum here. I think Braum is quite weak. I think Braum is a champion that should be used as a counter, and I don't think that you're countering anything here in terms of what is showing. Nico Azir is banned. Jace. I was thinking that Jace would be picked on blue side here, so I think it's a good denial. Does work with Ivan, but you are going to line yourself up to have an AD heavy composition. And for those who wonder what happened to DFM, it's like they had some internal drama issues that I don't want to go into too much, but their top laner is a retired player that stepped in to help his team out, and that's it pretty much. Nuke said 3v3 mid with Braum Ivan is strong. I don't really care about what Nuke has said on this topic. I like plain and simple. I think Braum is just bad here. What you think that the other melee supports are bad 3v3 mid? I don't think so. Okay, so we have Nico Aziban, Olaf, Tristana, and then they blind pick Aatrox, and Renekton gets picked. My chat went crazy when Renekton's picked, but Renekton is good into Aatrox. Sure, the enemy might have opportunities to buy armor, but Alistar buying armor is really whatever. Maokai could potentially buy armor. It's like Syndra, sure, she might go Zhonya second, but it's not that big of a swing. I think that if you have strong matchups and you come out ahead in the early game, then as long as you are ahead of the curve, I think that it's all good. And Renekton against Aatrox is a strong matchup for Renekton. It's not a bad pick at all. Maybe you could look to like play Gwen here, or maybe Cannon if you want to have a better damage mix, but I think it's perfectly fine. I think here as well, if you have Renekton, and let's say Renekton, Nautilus, Ivan as something, I think that the enemy is still incentivized to buy tenacity, you know? So I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's important to highlight that there might be windows on 2 core where a composition like this might be weak and where they are waiting for their Cyrildas and LDR to land. That could be a potential point of weakness, but this also means that you ended up not being ahead in a composition that should be ahead in my mind in such a game. You're playing against Maokai Jungle, you're playing Renekton into Aatrox. This is very important. Thank you for the tier 1 Syndra's on the boob. Braum has good synergy with Jace. It's like it's okay, but it's not more or less synergy than any of the other supports. I think it's whatever. I just don't think Braum is good here. I think it's better to just pick for your matchup and have a good time, you know? Nevertheless, Jace, I think Jace should have been picked by blue, but they pick here on red, which is perfectly fine too. I think in my mind, when I think of Nuke, I think of Jace, Cassio, I think of Orianna as well now, and that's it. Let's take a look at this first game. This game was a bit of a resident sleeper. The thing is, he hasn't played much of the new Azir. So that's the main thing, right? He played a lot of Azir when Azir was different. And Azir pretty much has a mini rework, you know, considering Max's W and the play pattern is different. Nuke Syndra is good too. And the thing is, it's been weird because, like, I think Nuke is just kind of underperforming, even on the champs that he usually plays well on, you know. He just kind of looks stiff in the way he plays. Maybe it's nerves, maybe it's something, but he's just not playing well. He's just not playing well. Like, Braum is not a counter to Kai'Sa. How is Braum a counter to Kai'Sa? She can reposition with her R, and her damage is really, really spaced out well. Like, in what world is Braum good against Kai'Sa? The start was pretty rough. They found a kill on Crowny. He burned Flash too. A very standard gank timer. You know, Ivan was in river, so they felt safe, but Ivan went for a full clear into base and go into bottom side. And that's it. I think the sad part for DFM is like they always had to face the music that their top laner just wasn't good enough, you know. And I sympathize with that, you know, because that was the Jutut Cup for my team when they played with me. Let's be honest. No, I think that's Cope half devil. Like, I think it's really Cope. Usually I complain about Nuke's Merc buys, but this is a good Merc buy, like Merc Threads here into Syndra Maokai. It allows you to play very far forward against Syndra, you know. It's really, really strong. Yeah, I can see how strong the Brom is in the 3v3 case. We continue. It's like Adam was just collecting platings. Clean 1v1, 3 platings, super far ahead, while Aatrox is buying lane items, you know? I think that BDS is very fortunate that they are playing CFO, because I think Glory would be a big problem for Nuke. Glory to me has been the best mid laner in play-ins by like, and then Maple second. But I think Glory in terms of like laning has been by far the best. I think that Nuke was not playing so well. Like, I think that you're coping again, Maposaurus. Nuke wasn't bad this series. Tried to lane with 3 in your lane every time. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, when I say this, it's based off of very, very nuanced reasons. And you can see in his movement, in his CS numbers, his base timers, you know, that's a lot of things is off. And you're saying that as if Labrov and Sheo weren't mid perma as well to contest the other 3, you know? They were perma mid. It's like, it's just how the game is, you know? You contest around mid. And the fact that this is the case is what, in my opinion, is making BDS look a little bit more rough. Yeah, the Merc threads on Alistar are atrocious. Very, very bad. Enemy has full AD, and I think just CDR shoes are just base, like this for Alistar. Do you believe who will face Team Wales? I think Team Wales versus Loud. I think that Team Wales should be able to win that one. This game, I think this MasterCard graphic here just kind of highlights the series more than anything else. I repeat, Adam has been the best performing player by far, even in the games, even in the second game that they lost against Team Wales. The game 3, it's arguable because I think that was just a complete collapse. When people say, yo, no Renekton, what the fuck? It's like, Renekton is a good champ. Like, I don't want people to be delusional about it, you know? Why would... It's like, I would play Face Rush here, and I don't think tenacity is important at all. Like, bro, in most cases, if you're in contact with Alistar, you are going to ult. In 95% of the cases you fight with Alistar, you're going to ult on contact. And I'd rather have ult more often and flash more often more than anything else. I don't think Tabi will make you tankier. Like, it will not... It's like you get percentage damage reduction, health is a very good stat for you, and that's it, you know? Ionian doesn't give you tenacity, but it just gives you more ults and more flashes, you know, so... After a certain period, the game slowed down enough and everything was just surrounding the Drakes. DFM, in all of the games that they played, there came a point in time where they needed to coordinate fights. And the ultimate doesn't give you tenacity. I don't know. I saw earlier on my stream that people were having a conversation about that, but it doesn't give you tenacity. It's it just breaks, it's just a cleanse without the tenacity. Well, it's a QSS more so. Alright, so this fight, right, as an example, DFM tried to collapse on, they cross in, Maokai ult, Alistair combo. Maybe you could say that they were well used, but no one was in connection to follow up or do anything with this, so it's completely pointless, completely useless. Doesn't matter if you CC 4 people, if the enemy, your team is also CC'd because they have to walk to the fight in the first place, you know? We look at game 2. Game 2, BDS. This is a different side to, of course, Adam, which is neat. Xayah gets first picked, Kaiser Tristana, they go for Vi. We have Xayah, Vi, Rakan. I think Xayah Rakan rotation is broken. I think that this is something that, as long as you don't have like the really, really hard lane bullies to play into it, Xayah Rakan is just too well-rounded. I think they cover for each other's weaknesses, and with that, they're just a big ball of strength. Xayah Rakan is as OP as ever. Kaiser Tristana gets locked in. Vi, happy to see Tristana, right? But at the end of the days, you know, Tristana... I think the biggest nerf to Tristana has been the fact that static shift is a lot weaker. And I think that Tristana bridged her weakness against a lot of the mages that are in meta right now. It bridged her to the point where she's stronger and plays side. You know, it's like static shift allowed her to break through lane phase. Level 1 to 5, Tristana was one of the best laners and still is. And then static shift would just be perfect, where you, when you're playing against champions that you don't want to interact with, you just pushed and you left, you know? And then you kept farming, kept pushing. But now you only have the option of going Kraken, and that makes you weaker in some matchups. For example, the Cassio Tristana matchup is one of those, you know? And then Ivan is here. Ivan is locked in, perfectly fine. Ivan Tristana, that's a combination. DFM choose to commit their bans to Olaf Renekton. Like, if you want to make the Tristana stronger, right, then you ban, for example, you just ban Syndra and Cassio, and then Tristana would have been monster here, but DFM are in the headspace, yo, enemy top laners just destroying ours, so we need to set them up for success, you know? This is the struggle of DFM at this tournament. They picked Blitzcrank, which, you know, they picked Ivan here, and then enemy team bans Nautilus as well. It's like your options are kind of running slim. I'd rather have a Blitzcrank in my team every time than a Leona. That's for sure. I think Blitzcrank is completely fine. Olaf ban has more value than Jax ban here. You have to keep in mind, like, if you have Poppy prepared against Jax, then yes. And it's not something that Adam has shown too much, that is down to blind pick. Maybe he has no answers into Olaf. Olaf is definitely like one of those champions that can get spicy in a lot of matchups, you know? Olaf is definitely like a champion where knowledge edge can be very important. So Cassio into Tristana with Vi is perfectly fine. Cassio is one of the answers into Trist. And then Poppy here I think is a splendid pick against Jax. I think if this was a stronger team, I think the DFM draft looks quite interesting here. If this was a stronger team, they wouldn't have to ban Olaf and Renekton here on 4-5. And then I think that red side would actually be able to compete. But I think blue side just are playing just one of a composition that is very easy to execute with the Xayah Rakan and Vi there. You always have go buttons, things to rally around, and a decent early game. Once again, the story of this one was a lot of action around mid lane. A lot of action around mid lane. They managed to pick up some kills for the Trist, but there was a bit of a problem here for Upper Man in terms of how he laned. You know, Jax was having a real good time. I don't know why Harp just didn't press R here. Like Hook he just didn't believe in himself. They just didn't believe in himself. Like here, there's no Cassio flash. I think if he hooked straight up, like this could have been a lot better, and then they could play the game. Instead, Tristana needs to go melee and jump in and go deep. Here we continue. Harp on the Hex Flash. I think here Cassio just needs, like the fact that Nuke dies to this is very bad. You know, most players look at this and say, well, 3 people mid, but dying to this, he has no reason to contest mid. Rakan made a decision for him. Vi is also opening on the map with 2-0 and going towards Raptors. Rakan is connecting with Vi and they're gonna give information. He's losing nothing by not walking up to the wave because Tristana's pushing. This is a very bad death here. Very bad death. Everyone is coming. You see Rakan, Vi, they're all coming. They're gonna connect. They are all gonna connect. The only hope here now was the same principle applies here on bot. It's like Ivan is stepping into bottom side, and then Harp is stepping forward when they don't have information on Vi. Here, Ivan lost tempo on mid to play. Why didn't Nuke just walk to left jungle instead? He didn't need to walk anywhere. He could just sit and fog because Tristana was hitting the wave. We continue. Jax was completely dominating, 20 CS ahead, 2 platings, just having a good time. Adam was gonna carry this game, plain and simple. Here, I wanted to highlight the same principle on bot that I mentioned on mid. It's like here, Ivan spent tempo on mid, he went to mark his camps, and now he's crossing into bot. His bot lane is very impatient here, Kai'Sa is 6, and maybe they could play if Ivan is here, but here they find the window because Ivan was spotted on the pink ward, and then this just extends to Harp dying, which is very, very bad. Harp is not allowed to die like this, you know? You need to sync up and do much better than this if you want to play the game. And that's why, you know, it was quite disappointing to see the level of gameplay. I thought Appelman would fail this flash because he wasn't walking towards the wall like that, you know? And nevertheless, we continue. I think this kill here on mid was the nail in the coffin. Tristana didn't jump out of the miasma when it was placed. He tried to walk forward and then he was already grounded. And I think maybe if he walks forward now and then like buffers the Tristana jump, maybe there's some gameplay, but it's very hard, you know? Very hard. And then he dies. And then I think with that, the hope died too. It's like Jax with this condition against the 80 heavy composition is very, very tough to play. And Vi is also in really strong condition. The enemy team will buy like Ninja Tabis, and Jax, of course, with the low cooldown on Counter-Strike is super, super good. And the game is over. This brings us to the conversation about the rest of the bracket. I think this is the more exciting part for everyone that is here. The exciting conversation about what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a big day. The bigger day, I would argue, than today. Loud versus Gigabyte Marines. I think Loud is the better team. I think that Loud does a better job of connecting and playing together. I think the Gigabyte Marines, even in terms of how Levy plays early game, I think has been quite unimpressive. I would have to say that I think Kiaya should have an edge over Robo. I think that Levi mechanically is better than Croc, but I think in terms of game sense, I don't think Croc is going to fall behind necessarily against Gam. And this is me without mentioning the bot lane. I think that Slater is by far the weakest AD carry at this tournament. Even if they won today, I think Utapon is like, in my mind, is better. I think that, you know, all in all, I think this bot lane gap will be big. I have been quite impressed with CEOs. CEOs and Root have been super, super good, and I think that they carried this series to victory. I think that Loud play better as a team, even though the Tinones and Robo aren't the best laners. I think Robo had a solid Renekton and solid K'Sante. He's playing the right champs. In terms of how Loud play together and connect on the map and rally around objectives, is just going to be way better than Gum. And I think that we'll have a repeat of basically the first series that we saw. Maybe not as extreme. Not as extreme because Gigabyte Marines bot lane really ran it down. But I think that CEOs and Root are just better than the counterparts. Even though I think Harp, well, Harp is on DFM, so that doesn't matter. I think that Pallet and Slade are just so terrible. Really terrible. I think Root was pretty decent during MSI too. He just played against much better competition. If we look back at the past Loud games, Renekton, Sivir, it's like here they pick Sivir. It's like Kai'Sa and then Xayah first pick. Like this is something that Loud need to fix. I think that you need to be willing to play Aphelios in these type of spots, or like maybe even go to play Ezreal, you know? It's like Jarvan, like this type of rotation here that PSG did, it looks like a nut breaker, you know? It's like you should really factor in this Sivir pick is really strange. And then also on 5 to pick Talia, it's like Jarvan was blind picked, and then Sivir and Talia was locked in. This was ridiculous, right? You have to consider how Loud. I think the crucial thing for them will be how do they solve the AD situation on the red side, because Kaiser and Zaya is out. Am I out of my mind to want Seos in LCS or LEC? I think Seos for sure is better than a lot of supports that we have seen in LCS. And in this game as well, you see the same rotation here, the Sivir into the Kaiser, but this time around the Jarvan is out. I think it's a good read to remove Jace against PSG. I think the PCS teams really should remove Jace. They really love Jace in PCS. Yeah, leaving Loud, like being in Loud is the same as being in K-Corp. You know, it's like joining a piss tier LCS team to just play in LCS doesn't really make sense. It's like Loud is the equivalent of like K-Corp in terms of level, you know, it's the same. It's like, why leave K-Corp to join like a mediocre LEC team? It just doesn't make sense. All right, Nico first pick. This was the prior here. They were playing against Maple, Rel Kaiser, and then Sivir gets picked, Alistar. This is better Sivir case, of course, than the previous one. Sivir Alistar is pretty solid into Rel Kaiser showing. I think this is a much better draft adaptation of Loud. They blind picked Cannon, and then this was the disaster game, of course, against the Mall fight where he got dove and he got smacked up by the Viego. You know, I think that they just had a very poor read of this, you know. And I think that draft-wise, I don't think they look that bad here. It's just that the main issue is Croc is very limited in his champion pool. So it's like, if you want to look at Loud in this series and things that you can target for GAM, I think that Levi plays more champions than Croc. Croc somehow picked Kha'Zix. I think that's illegal. Like, the whole world knows the player that Croc is, and for them to land on Kha'Zix here is ridiculous. It's like they could have picked something way more simple, and he's just playing Kha'Zix, and it was one of the worst Kha'Zixes that we've seen in competitive play, and it was rough, you know, rough. So if you want to attack Loud in any way, I think that their solo laners don't have the best laning. I think that you attack the AD carry champion pool, and I think that's going to be a big plus. Make sure that, you know, you don't let Root play the Zayas and the Kaiser. I think that's the way. Even though, you know, in this game, I have to say, Root almost carried this one. I think Root, well, did he? Not really. But he still played well, honestly. He still played well. Okay, but I think Loud should be favored. I think GAM didn't show anything particular today. Like in the series that they won against R7, I think R7 just made it very easy because they threw the game over and over into GAM's direction. I think that mechanically GAM have some decent players, but in terms of team coordination, it's just not there. If we look at some of their drafts, you know, it's like, I think they have a good read on the Zyrel Prio. And that's it. You know, I don't think they have anything in particular going on for them. You know, this spot here, if they slammed Kesante into Silas and then Cannon top, then I would have a lot of respect for the drafting. But I don't think, like someone mentioned in chat, that GAM has way better coaching staff or whatever, you know, like I don't think that's the way here. I think definitely Loud should look to pick AD and jungle 1, 2, 3 and never drop jungle. They should never drop jungle, I think. It's like dropping jungle for them, I think, is a death sentence. Here they got Sejuani somehow, though, you know? I'll probably let Lee Sin, but I think that it's just a question of, oh, I'm playing Jarvan, I don't want to play against fucking Lee Sin. That's all. The next matchup is CFO versus BDS. I think BDS is very fortunate not to play against Team Wales. I think Team Wales matches up very well against Team BDS. I think Jimian is not as strong of a laner as Glory, and I think this was a problem. I mean, GAM has Molecule and Jensen Go, so why not? Yeah, but what does that mean? Like, I know nothing about the Loud coaching staff. Why would we even begin to compare them? What does it matter that they have Molecule and Jensen Go if on the server they are playing like shit? Just because they have names that we recognize from Twitter, it doesn't make them better or worse, you know? In the end, what they do on the server is what matters. I think in terms of... I think CFO as a team, I think Rest the main entry BDS have, I think, is Adam, right? And I think that BDS will lock in Rumble ban 100%. They will ban Rumble. That's done and settled. I think a very crucial detail of this matchup will be that I think they shouldn't let Jimmy M play Jace. They shouldn't let him play Jace. I think that's crucial. I think Rumble Jace could be very, very good target bans. I think removing Rumble 100% is done and dusted. I think Jace needs to be contested. I think Gemini has been one of the better junglers at this tournament. And I think that based on what we've seen so far, I would give Gemini an edge here in the jungle. Because Gemini has been very, very solid. I think the main point of entry for CFO, I think Xiaoxi and Gemini have controlled the flow of games better than what we've seen. And keep in mind, that's a very limited sample size. Very limited sample size. CFO have communication problems. I don't know where you're getting this information from, but I'm not going to begin to open up that kind of worms because we know nothing about this team, and we don't even talk about communication about LEC teams. So we're not going to open up that kind of worms. I think Xiaoxi and Gemini have done a better job of controlling games. I think it's cool that Shun has showcased Kalista. I think that he has a deeper pool than BDS. But I think that the rest has looked quite mediocre when he hasn't played the Rumble. So for me, BDS, the point of entry is going to be Adam. I think that he's the player that will and can potentially make the difference. I think that Labrov looks comfy on Rakan. Other than that, you know, the Braum, I'm not too big of a fan of the Braum angles today. And the question is now, will BDS invite the Jace angles, or will they play or ban the Jace angles? I think this is where things get interesting. CFO definitely could have won the series against Team Wales yesterday. Like they could have faced up against Team Wales today. I think CFO, this series right here was the highest level gameplay that we saw all tournament long. All tournament long, this was the highest gameplay level series that we saw in the entire tournament. And I think CFO is a very tough matchup here for BDS. I think with what we've seen so far, I would say that CFO is slightly advantaged. Slightly. Something feels very off about how BDS is playing. They seem very stiff, and it seems like they're very afraid of losing. That might be vague, but in terms of their decisions, it doesn't seem so decisive. And it seems like Adam is the only true player that is like coming to play, you know? But the main question here is CFO, right? Rumble is targeted banned against him. Here he played Gnar. He played a Gnar, and this Kalista game was super solid, super nice. You know, Kaiser Xayah is out. This is where I'm curious. I am curious about who is Crowny going to be together with his bot lane. Like, who is he going to be when the Xayah is out? We haven't seen Crowny on Kaiser, and I hope that this is the moment BDS actually shows some layering to their gameplay, you know? I think that's like the most crucial thing for me. It's like we have to peel the BDS onion. I've watched all of the LMS versus PCS EU series, but I don't know why that would be relevant at all in this context. It's like we have BDS that is at Worlds for the first time, and we have CFO, you know? It's like, I don't think comparing it to past results has anything to do with anything. Would be interesting to see Crowny on Caitlyn as an example, you know? Ezreal is perfectly fine. I think Ezreal is fine in some cases, you know? You don't have to pick it every game, but you can pick it in some games, and that's perfectly fine. It's like, I want to recognize the lane dominant BDS. It's like if I think about the characteristics that if I didn't watch this tournament, what I would hope about BDS is that, oh, they have a strong bot side, Shio is very controlling in the jungle, Nuke is very solid, and they find ways to just put vision around mid and don't focus too hard on contesting around mid, and through that control the game through bottom side. You know, this is the BDS that I like, but they haven't showcased this side of themselves in this tournament. Most of it has been the Adam show and some weak contention around mid, and then some very timid setups surrounding Rift Herald and Dragon. I think that BDS's losses against Team Wales, that was some of the most passive gameplay I've ever seen. And I think it stems from, sure, the Gragas pick was terrible. I think that Crowny on Ezreal doesn't really give him a lot of leverage in the games that he play. And I think it just falls on jungle and mid and support in a lot of cases. Very rigid and timid. So this is the moment for BDS to showcase some of the things that we've gotten to know about BDS the entire year. What happens after Xayah? Do we get to see Crowny Kaiser, or does he just not want to play it? Do we get to see Adam has been Adam. I think Adam has been true to himself at this tournament, and he's done a very good job, I think. I would like to see Shio and Labrov cooperate through contesting through bottom side, you know? It's like Azir, I don't want to push too hard for Azir, because Azir is indeed a weaker champ. Azir has become a weaker champ. And I think that BDS, the peak of BDS was always when they controlled the game through bot. I think the prio on Jace will be very high tomorrow. And I think what's worrisome for me is that I think CFO has showed deeper layers on bot. But the main thing for me is that I don't like how Rest is looking like when he's not on Rumble. That is the main point of entry, I think, for BDS, based on what we've seen at this tournament. Based on what we've seen this tournament, I think that Adam is the guy, you know? But based on what I've seen, I think CFO is favored here. I call it how I see it, guys. Might be wrong, but I think that BDS is favored here. CFO. What did I say? I don't know what I said, but I meant CFO. I think CFO is favored in this matchup. Yeah, CFO is favored. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think like 53 CFO, 47 BDS.